everyone, for staying with us. So today, the Vice President, Senator Kashim Shettima, is optimistic about the last 300-plus days in office by this present administration, the Bola Tinubu-led government. And he says that President Tinubu really means well, and the renewed hope agenda is right on track. And the president really means a progressive growth for Nigeria. Take a listen to the Vice President earlier today in Abuja, an event to assess or table the performance of the Tinubu government to the Nigerian people.
For the sake of our nation, we have in place the renewed Hope Infrastructure Development Plan to further facilitate effective infrastructure development across the key areas of our economy. For the sake of our future, we are adjusting to the times, and that explains the adoption of CNG buses, which we are prepared to actualize in our drive for a nation that offers more benign alternative transformation channels for the people and keeps to its global commitments to reducing greenhouse gas emissions. And Mr. President has been at the forefront of regional and national interventions to guarantee the safety of each of us. There is no way to inspire PEP in the nation and our agenda by local communities and the international partners than this bold declaration of intent and demonstrations of practical action to fix the nation.
All right, it does look like the VP is marking the script of his principal, the president. Well, how far or how well has this administration performed? You are the citizen. You should be able to say, because some of you voted this government, or those of you who did not vote. Well, we have a government, and when it's about 1 year in office, and we're looking at what they've done in the last 1 year, how do you assess it? Let's speak to one of the leaders of opposition. I'm being joined by the national chairman of the Social Democratic Party, perhaps the oldest Nigerian political party in Nigeria, Mr. Shehu Kabam. He joins us live here in our studio. Thanks so much. It's good to see you.
A great pleasure. Thank you.
What do you make of the Vice President's comment about the assessment of the Tinubu government over the last 300-plus days?
Well, before doing that, Sean, let me thank you tremendously and from my heart on behalf of millions of Nigerians. You are a rare gem.
Thank you so much.
A lot of people find a lot of quality in you for being straight, sincere, and committed to our country. We don't have any other country except Nigeria.
Absolutely, we don't.
Secondly, the Vice President have mentioned a lot of things. For me, he's one of the best speech makers. But there's a difference between making a speech and the reality that is on ground. This government made a very serious mistake on the very day the president took out of office. I was at the Eagle Square, not that I was being told. After taking him out of office, of course, the next item we talk about the budget, to which the subsidy was removed and will not be funded anymore. Now, my thought is that since there was no formation of the Federal Executive Council, there was no aides that were being appointed, there was no kitchen cabinet that were assembled to dissect issues, discuss possibility or otherwise, consequences of otherwise, of taking a national decision, of removing a subsidy to an extent of up to 300 or 400%. You know, that was the foundation of the crisis that we find ourselves. Number two, the same president knows that he inherited a collapsed system. From economic, political, agricultural, education, everything was almost on his knees when he took over. But again, the president, he applied for the job. And I'm happy he says he's not complaining. But we don't need him to complain. Nigerians are complaining. Virtually all the strata of the economy are stranded right now. Virtually all. The economic aspect is the worst of it because the political environment is not even inviting for anybody to come and invest domestically and internationally. And let them roll out the statistics of the investors they have attracted. And let them also roll out the statistics of those companies that have moved out of Nigeria. Don't even go into the health sector. Don't go into the educational sector.
So in all of the aspects of our lives and in governance, economy is a failure as far as you are concerned.
Economy is a failure, and they should admit that economy is a failure.
But those economists who will say things are difficult, you cannot have a magic wand to change things overnight. It will be painful, and we need a lot of patience to see the changes happen. Could this be the reason why maybe someone like you is not seeing the difference between past and present?
No. I've been one of those that have been advising this government, supporting this government to do the right thing. Number one, they knew that the economy was in bad shape. When you meet a building that have collapsed, you cannot build it in a day. The system is so suffocated. The economy doesn't breathe. The system doesn't breathe. So which means that if you are coming out with a policy, that policy have to be strategically positioned.
So are you saying that the renewed hope agenda on the economy side is awful, is woeful?
What?
You don't agree with their policy?
No, I don't agree.
For example, they made two major economic policies. The unification of the exchange rate. Also, the naira, the value of the naira. And those who will say, these are some of the issues that a lot of economists and experts have been clamoring for.
You made that analysis. You dissected the exchange rate policy. You know the fluctuation. The only country that I know in one day, our foreign exchange will fluctuate 4 or 5 times. This government. We float our currency. We have nothing to back it up. We are in for borrowing.
So you don't like the manner in which the flotation of the naira
It is the stages that matters. The process was faulty. The policy might be good, but the implementation was faulty. There was no human face. There was no consideration that the purchasing power of Nigerians is extremely very low. And how do you run an economy where the citizen cannot afford to feed 2 times a day? What kind of economy are we running? Are we running a Western economy?
The vice president was a former banker. The president is a former tax expert. He's been in they are from the same sector. And so when we wonder that perhaps they should understand the economy more than any past government that we have seen.
Elitist economy, yes, they understand it. But elementary economy, where people are being affected, people cannot purchase food. People cannot pay their children's school fees. The hospitals, people cannot pay the bill.
Food inflation is
extremely very high. You know, it's extremely very high. Now, what kind of economy are you driving? Are you driving Western economy that our system cannot accommodate? Or you are dealing with the economy that have our peculiarities as a nation? There are two different things. Now, if your projections on the economy is to satisfy the Western interest, then of course your citizen will perish along the way. And that is why the entire economy from the grassroots to the middle class is almost gone. There are no middlemen anymore. Even the lowest people, people that are selling fresh drinks, they cannot afford to do it right now because of the electricity tariff bill. So what kind of economy are you building? They are yet to define it. If the economy is to empower the citizens, to create jobs for the citizens, to create funds for citizens to have access to funding with a low interest rate, then you are making sense to me.
I mean, and the manner in which you are describing things is scary. You know why? If you are passed a vote of no confidence on the Tinubu government in the area of the economy, there are those who will say, look, the worst performance of any government in our history in terms of economy was the Buhari government. Some experts said the Buhari government took us 20 years back in time in terms of economic progress in this country. And if you were talking about the Tinubu government in this life, it does look like there's a disaster.
Let me reaffirm myself. I have said it severally, that Buhari government is the worst government Nigeria have ever had. It's the consequences of what President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is suffering from. Because he knew that he inherited a very bad system, a bad economy that have collapsed. Now his responsibility is to find a softer way of regulating the economy, not a harsh way, not a rush way to deal with the economy, because you cannot revamp it in a day. When somebody fainted, it requires a lot of process to bring him back to life, because he inherited economy that is an ICU completely. That was the kind of economy he inherited. So there is no doubt that the President Buhari regime have completely taken our economy to the dustbin. People cannot afford to take care of anything. Even the insecurity issue that led to the worsening of the economy, destroy our agricultural sector, destroy our strategic integration center. What do you do about it? Now, which means that what he needs is strategic thinkers, strategic applications, strategic implementations. It has nothing to do with rush hour.
Well, the handlers of the economy, do you see them as doing the right things?
I don't. I'm sorry to say that, because if the Minister of Finance understand the peculiarity of Nigerian economy and where we are coming from and where we lost it, the best he would have done is go back to the basis. There are records in the Ministry of Finance. There are records that have successful management of the economy, both regimes, both military and civilian regime. There's a base, there's a template for him to follow. And then, given the dynamic of the new generation that we belong to, the modern economy that we run, all they need to do is to re-modernize, re-inject a lot of initiative, a lot of innovation to drive the economy. You cannot drive economy when you have business to run. You cannot borrow. The interest is very high. And then you expect people not to go and commit crime. It's not possible.
Let's take a breather, Alhaji Gabam. When we come back, I'd like you to look into some other aspects. You are very critical about the economy. You don't think that this government has done well. And perhaps we need to now start thinking, well, before we cross into the second year, because if a performance of the government, according to you, is zero performance in the first year, you can't go into another year.
The economy is...
If you fail primary 1, you can't be promoted to primary 2. So economically, you are saying this government has failed primary 1. They need to repeat it.
The government traveled to so many countries in search of economic investments. Nigerian resources were invested in that field. What do we benefit from it?
You've spoken so passionately about the economy. Let's look at other aspects. One key area that will be very important to the lives of Nigeria is how secure this country is being. What did the Bola Tinubu government met on the ground? From your own assessment, how safe are we safer under Bola Tinubu than he met this country?
Well, I would say from facts available to me, in terms of security, they are doing very well. You know, the level of crime and criminality have reduced. The ringleaders have been either eliminated or arrested or have been prosecuted. You can drive from here to Kaduna anytime without being fear of either being attacked or kidnapped. Not that it's 100%. Now, even the sit at home in the southeast have reduced. But in the last 1 week, if you look at the maiming, the barbarism and the killing that is going on around Sokoto, around Kebbi, around Zamfara and Katsina states, it's a very serious concern. But like I've said, they have given a lot of priority and they are getting it right in terms of security. But they need to understand, dealing with non-state actors means that the non-state actors are also generating a lot of ideas on how to navigate through what the government is doing. So there's a need to reorganize the security architecture as a whole to equip the Nigerian police force as much as possible, because the domestic operation of the security of the Nigeria is led with the Nigerian police force. The army should be repositioned towards areas that they call a war zone and deal with it. The army alone cannot deal with the situation. They need to have a squad that specialize in dealing with some of these non-state actors that have a lot of kinetics in terms of destabilizing the state.
Would you have suggested that there should have been a restructure of the security architecture?
Absolutely, absolutely.
But do you think they have done anything of that nature?
Well, I haven't seen it, but I saw the Office of the NSA organizing special squad to deal with some of these crime and criminalities. But that would not be sufficient enough. But he's doing very well in terms of trying to handle the situation. But the dimensions are extremely very complicated. Extremely very complicated. I cannot imagine that we live in a nation where people can go in and rape a mother, rape a child, kill a father, kidnap children, 300, as if we are ants. We are not human beings, a nation. It has never happened anywhere in the world. And which means that whatever we have invested in the security, it's not working. You have the Air Force that have the capacity for radar system, for surveillance and other things. You have other security agencies, the DSS, the army themselves that have intelligence units, you know, that ought to have monitored all this. We are not suffering from supply of intelligence. What we are suffering from implementation and the will to execute those kind of decisive decisions.
Let's wrap up now in just less than 60 seconds. And I'd like to know, there are those who have criticized President Tinubu's choice or his choices in those who are working with him. That those who will say, look, if he needs to do anything for this country, he needs to rejig that cabinet, that those who don't fit to become a minister in that cabinet. Do you think so?
Without apology, I can say that in the absence of just 2 ministers that are somehow working, I think he doesn't have a cabinet.
Who are those?
I can say this, I'm not very close to Wike, is my friend before, but in FCT, if you hate him, or you like him, or you don't like him, you cannot say he's not working in FCT. He's doing tremendously well. What matters is, what are you putting on ground for the citizens?
That's one.
So one. The other one that is making noise, which is very controversial, is the Minister of Works and Housing. You can see semblance of some things going on, but there is embedded with a lot of controversy. But apart from that, if you take the Minister of Agriculture, look at the budget year in, year out. Look at the Ministry of Education year in, year out. Look at the Ministry of Health. Our doctors and nurses are leaving Nigeria. What are they doing about it? Look at our embassy. Go and take the state of our embassy.
So you think that the president needs to rejig, so he needs to fire some people?
It's his own strategic interest to fire 70% of his cabinet. It's his own strategic interest. Nigeria has sufficient manpower that he needs to drive his government. But if you rely on patronage, political patronages, or his party, I don't see him moving anywhere.
Alhaji Shehu Gabam is the national chairman of the SDP and has been assessing the Bola Tinubu government in the last few days. Well,